Well, no, I don't know. They have none at the library. Where is it?
I think Bob's coming in with, right? So-
Yeah, he's out here.
This way he is. We just do the, It's scrambled.
You didn't put new sheets out today, did you?
And you want?
The sheets? Okay, I changed mine, because I just saw you doing them, I didn't know if they were new ones.
They're new from what I put in.
Yeah, I was looking at the old one too. I didn't realize it was sitting in here.
Want to go ahead and get started? Your short one, is that right?
Yeah, Bob said he would get here as soon as he can, be a few minutes late.
Okay,
He was coming from Kenny Buckmore.
all right. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 4:00 something, 4 o'clock even, I guess. If you could rise and join me in the. There's one over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Reached out and grabbed your phone. I said, what's my phone going over there? And I realized it's over here.
Will we both be in trouble if we grade it? I'm gonna send you something, Terry, we're having, RC 13 adult education come Friday, 1:30 to 2:30 for people to bring their various devices and ask questions and.
Figure out how to work on it.
Yeah, work, yeah.
Are they gonna be?
Only people that don't have grandchildren.
That's, I was gonna say, it's the high school kids that are coming to teach, right?
Right. Oh, but they only know how to do certain things on it, you know?
Mortifying. That wouldn't say the collects, but the ones you don't have to do it.
So adjustments to the agenda, I think, the only thing I've got for the select board is I'd like to add the select board to authorize the chair to sign the letter to DMV to allow us to sign the paperwork required to transfer the deed to the fire truck.
So
Second that.
Any further discussion?
basically, we don't have a title to that truck and have it, right?
We have a title, but it's not in our name.
Great.
Whose name is it in?
The people that sold it to us, from whenever we bought it. It's in California.
California, something.
And we just never transferred it.
And next year we wouldn't need one.
Right.
Even that long.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
There you go, Hannah. You're all set.
And I see no public in here, but if anybody else has any comments they'd like to make before we get moving. Hearing none. I'll move to the previous budget committee chair, allow him to open his meeting and press on.
Call the budget committee to order. This is the protocol that the election should be run by the outgoing secretary or the town administrator.
I think typically it's been done by the outgoing. Because you're still the budget chair until you're replaced, right?
Okay, nominations for committee chair.
I nominate Walter.
Second.
Any other nominations? Thanks for the vote of confidence. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Nominations for secretary.
Nominate Sandra Wall.
Second.
You accept the nomination?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
We talked, it's okay.
Thank you so very much.
I would not be blindsided.
No, no.
All in favor? Thank you, Sandra. And we need to approve the minutes of April,
Just, hold on, just for the count, right now, there's just 4 of us.
right,
Well, there's five, but I think Walter abstained from his.
Exactly, so there's
It was 401 and both.
4 to nothing.
Is she on the budget committee?
No.
Well, 401,
She's
one
gonna
was
be
the
gone.
abstention.
Oh, right.
Good to know.
Gotcha.
You'll understand when we get the administrative budget.
Are you up to adjustment?
I'm up to approval of the last minutes.
Oh, thank you, that was the adjustment. It wasn't on the agenda.
And I left them on my machine, so what was the date?
It was April 26, 2023.
Is there a motion to approve the budget committee meetings of April 26, 2023? That was our last meeting, was held by Zoom, and we were all present except Kate.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Sandra, for holding those for this almost a year. Reminding us last time.
Next time, if we have leftovers, we could have a very short meeting and just.
Then you'll have a leftover.
We always have like.
The thing about this leftover was that it was discussing what we should say about buying the land.
Mhm.
And because it wasn't approved, it wasn't on the town website for anybody to see what we discovered.
But you survived.
Well, yeah, I think so. Nobody's doing this yet.
Bite your tongue. If you like, I can give you a little brief overview of the budget as we see it.
Great budget memo to the department and what we're doing.
Thank you. I think Terry authored that.
Pardon?
I think Terry authored that.
I don't
The note to the budget, or to the department heads on the budget. And so what we had told the budget, or the department heads, is that we're recommending 3.2% raise across the board, which is the federal COLA, CPI/COLA that they gave for this year. And I think pretty much everybody came in on that, with one notable exception. We'll talk about that when we get to the ambulance. But they're raking in some grant money that will end up covering a lot of their increases. Overall, our emphasis in this particular budget was to get us caught up on the roads, which we're still working on. John is doing an amazing job as an unpaid CE or road commissioner.
Agreed.
And so we've kind of not thrown away, but we pushed aside the normal pave, save thing because we've got the funding now and we've got the availability of the contractors and the prices, right? We hope, yeah, right. And so a lot of that work is getting done this year, and then is some more in the budget for next year as well. The other kind of shift, and we'll talk about it in more detail when we get to it, is as was mentioned, Terry is stepping down as the town administrator effective 1 July, and Hannah has agreed to step in to the position on that date. So in the meantime, we're training Hannah and we're moving Terry. She's not retiring from the front office. She's becoming the CEO pretty much full-time. It's not technically, we're going to keep it full-time at least for a while. So you'll see a shift in the cost from admin to CEO. Yes, sir.
Many congratulations, Hannah. You survived 2 years of intense scrutiny from your soon-to-be former boss. And so many thanks, Terry, for all that you've done for all of us. And we're looking forward to you kicking you know what, as a more dedicated CEO.
She's already got a reputation.
I don't think I'm making friends. What is the difference? Roles, you're now just like higher up.
I'm like in the back office,
Yeah,
Okay.
nobody can bother me.
she's now the code enforcement officer.
Okay.
She's been doing that,
Right, she's,
town administrative duties,
Right.
but there's not enough hours in the day to do it. But I think it's also, we should point out that Terry's also budgeted on average for 15 hours a week in the front office,
right.
right?
Yeah.
To help out, train. And also transition and also cover vacations, that type of stuff, I mean, so.
Right.
But when we get the administrative budget, we'll have all that detail.
As far as, overall of the budget, there are some highs, there are some lows in it, so it's, overall, it looks like about a little less than an 8% increase over last year. When you purely look at our expenses, once you factor in some of the other things, it drops significantly. One of the issues, though, is that last year, because it was based on a previous 18-month year, we got a very large amount of state share. And so that's gone this year, cut almost in half, I think, right? 400 to 200,000.
Only proportional to that extra 6 months, or just more?
Yeah, well, it's how they do the calculations for it. So they based it on 18 months. And when they pump it into their formula, it spits out an amount that turned out to be almost 400,000, which we didn't believe, but the fact is we got it. But now it's based on the 12-month cycle. So it's back down to what it was before, which is about 200,000.
Sure, you want to do another 18 months.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff, is that 400,000 total or 400,000 more than we get?
No, it was 400,000 total. Yeah, yeah. I think the numbers are here somewhere. So there is some recouping. The positive side of it is, although we don't have the full numbers for the surplus, one of the disadvantages to doing it, one of the few disadvantages, oh, by the way, to changing our fiscal year to July to June rather than January to December, is that at the end of the year, we're doing the budget ahead of time, so we don't know what the end of June is going to look like. So we're just estimating what those numbers are going to be. But by looking at what the current expenses are, and what they're projected to be, as well as what the expected and current revenues are, we're going to increase our surplus again, like we almost do every year. And so I think we're going to be in a pretty healthy position. I've done some calculations with the select board on how much surplus we're going to probably need, and it's going to be just shy of about 200,000. Funny, they shorted us 200,000. We need 200,000. So I think we're going to be, and I don't think we need all of that to get below the LD1. I think, I think right now, by putting 198,000 in surplus, we're going to be below the LD1 by 110,000. So we can get below the LD1 with what we present to the town without going deep into the surplus. And then when we set my thinking, my plan, and it's not in concrete yet, is that when we set the mill rate, we will have the real surplus number and we'll know how much we can add, we can decrease the budget at that time. So my objective here is to get us below LD1. That's what I'd like to see us come out of. I don't think that's going to be an issue because we're fairly confident, thanks to her work and a couple of other Kathy's work and Sandra's work. We're probably going to get the money from that we took out of surplus to buy that land. We're probably going to get that back. So
All of them. All of it. Potential,
potential, that's what it looks like.
no promises, right?
Do not take it as a given.
No.
It'll ruin our karma.
So we almost, with that, without even impacting surplus at all, we can take 67 from surplus, because we're getting 67 added, to apply to different things, we hope. So even, and that small amount will get us below LD1. So in a good shape. We do have a couple of things that have come up that we've discussed since we had set the budget. So we might be asking for a few things to change, but those are things that it's appropriate for the budget committee to discuss with us anyway. So we'll talk about those as they come up. There's only a couple of items that I can think of. And there's one, we've got one fairly large budget item in that personally, I don't think we need. And we'll let you guys look at that as well as we go. Any other questions from a macro perspective?
You want to tell us what that fairly large item is?
Yeah, I'm curious.
It's the alarm system.
Oh.
We put in, right now, this building has no smoke alarms. So it needs them. We need to put some smoke alarms in.
No smoking.
Right. And we do have a couple of alarms that beep and go off and the light goes off in a closet. And there's no remoting it to any, so it could go off, and unless somebody happens to trip across it, we don't even know that the alarm is going off. So we need some kind of system. The first one we priced out was a all-inclusive, interconnected video. They go off over here and it goes off over there, and you get it on your phone and your iPad, and I personally think it's a little more than what we need. Turbocharge. And so I think for a significantly smaller amount, we can get the same effect. Anything else? All right, with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so. Harry, tell us about general government.
So I guess the select board that the people the town administrator. This is part of what Jeff was talking about. I am gonna move to the back room. I'm gonna be code enforcement full time, and Hannah is going to front desk and some people that go along with that. And so that made a difference in this line, but you will see an addition in the code enforcement line when we get there. So the wages for the assistant and assistant deputy did the 3.2% increase, and we have in there to hire a part-time person at the counter. What I thought. So
I thought you were doing that. No?
we can talk about it.
Well, I thought you were gonna do it for a while.
Okay. Anyway, there's a
Until you
line
can
there.
find someone.
There's a
What I
line
thought.
there for
Yeah.
somebody to work. And the benefits are all related to wages and health insurance. And a new one on the page this year is the State Maine Family Leave Act, which the state's gonna start collecting the money in January. but it won't be available to collect from until the following year.
So how about if we close off compensation, wages, and then move on, and see if there are any questions on that part? Questions?
We can just, if you guys have all looked at it, if there's something specific you have a question about, we can do it that way too.
Yeah, you don't need to read every line of it.
I
Okay,
have a question.
all right.
So this is a little bit different. It looks like this year you put in what the departments had requested. And it looks like the select board has already reviewed and made their recommendations, and now we're just deciding. I don't think.
This is the way we've always done it.
Well,
Not always.
Okay,
That's
so
what we've always done it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never seen it this way before, so. I
yeah, we've done it the last 3 or 4 years this way, though.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. We have.
Yeah, yeah.
all right.
That's probably your fault.
I've been here long.
I know.
I don't remember seeing it this way, but okay.
Cool, cool.
All right.
Your meeting?
Oh, it's my meeting.
That's right.
So the assistant to the administrator is you in terms of this budget.
No, it's Phil.
But then who's deputy clerk?
Who's, yeah,
That was what.
what's the line item that is budgeting for your time, the 15 hours or whatever it is?
Part-time
The
clerk.
part-time, okay, all right. So I know that this is probably an out of bounds question, but, you're gonna entertain it anyway.
Mhm.
It's not, wages and salaries are not our purview, they're yours exclusively. A town employee once told me, how come nobody in this town, no employee ever gets a raise? And what was meant by that was, we get COLAs, but we don't get any raises based on performance or merit or whatever. Can I assume that the increases other than the ambulance are the 3.2%? And personally, can I encourage you to consider that the COLA is not the end of the line for rewarding employees?
Yeah,
Well, actually, in one case, there's a decrease. I mean, Hannah's fully aware that we're not offering Hannah what we were paying Terry.
Well, yeah.
You know, she.
It's kind of a 25-year experience gap.
Right.
Difference.
Just has to stick around 25 years.
Yeah, so in that sense, there's an adjustment the other way, if you will. But,
That's a promotion increase, John.
right.
and I will say in defense is that we have on occasion over the last year or two increased individual salaries, not so much based on how great a job they're doing, but because we've increased what they are doing.
And also for retention purposes, right?
Right.
This is,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, and
I
for
don't-
retention.
Like I said, I don't want to constrain this discussion, this is your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it's a philosophical discussion on that whole process. And it goes back to doing appraisals and how you link those two, and whether or not doing a good job earns you, or do you have to go over and above it. So it's a pretty deep subject with a lot of nuances to it that traditionally.
Did the town ever have a personnel committee that thought about that kind of stuff?
No, and that's what I was gonna say. No, that's what I was gonna say is traditionally, government agencies have shied away from that. And the reason was because you're using taxpayer money to pay folks, and so now you're deciding who deserves to be paid more. And so traditionally, government agencies have shied away from, they in the last few years though, it has come back and they've started doing it. I can tell you the way the county does it, it's kind of the opposite. They give them an increase, a 2% increase every year, unless they don't deserve it. So you get it, which is philosophically, that's the way it usually ends up anyway. is that if you have a merit raise program, everybody expects it and everybody gets it anyway. So, but the county's done it just the way counties usually do, is they're gonna use the stick instead of the carrot. So you get a 2% raise every year unless you do bad, and then we won't give it to you, so. But
Does that have anything to do with how unhappy the dispatch people are?
it might very well, might very well.
I have two questions or thoughts. One is, could you just explain me who all these people
Yeah, I
are?
was gonna ask the same thing.
Because this is from July forward, so the town administrator is Hannah.
Will be on July.
Yeah, well, this is a
Yeah.
July first
Yeah,
going forward.
right,
Okay, so this is Hannah on this line.
Yeah.
And who is assistant to administrator then?
Contrary to what she said, it's her.
Oh.
No, it's Bill.
No, it's Phil.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Phil, that's right.
Is
Then
deputy
the next
clerk.
one is,
Then the deputy clerk, all I'm saying was Terry.
that's what I understood too.
Is that, okay, so.
But Terry, you don't seem to have the same understanding.
Oh, I clearly must have at one point. I put
Because
it
you-
together.
Yeah.
You and I put the sheet together, and there was a very good reason why you have hours here.
Yes.
It relates to your health insurance.
Right.
Now, if you wanna give up your health.
No.
So, so assistant deputy / deputy clerk is Terry. And the next line is somebody we hope to hire. Got that right?
Or somebody's. Kind
Yeah.
of filling, could be,
Well, it says singular,
I know, but it could, it
But
doesn't
they can
have to be,
split,
it could be
right.
Michelle and someone else,
but
or,
it's
you know.
people who come in some hours a week or
Yeah,
whatever.
Or when
Tax
they-
time,
yeah.
vacations, that type of stuff.
All right, the other thought is back to what Walter was raising, which is, speaking as a former many-year federal government employee, they don't give you raises in your grade, but what they do is have a series of grades with additional responsibilities, and when you when you prove yourself able to do that additional thing, you get moved to a different grade that pays more. And we don't have anything like that.
No, we don't.
We don't
And
have
I
any
would think comparing Hannah with 2 years' experience and Terry with 25 or whatever it is, it's, it would be good to have some kind of benchmark of you now taken on and you handle more and therefore.
Yep.
In the abstract, is that what you're calling it?
Yes, yes. I mean, that's fully the intention. And when you think about it, that's really the only position that this would kind of apply to.
Mhm.
Because almost all of them are one deep and it is what it
This
is.
is the job,
Right.
But certainly
but
not
that-
with that job.
Correct. And that is, and we've already conveyed this to Hannah, that our expectation is that she starts at this, but that as time goes on, it will, just like it has with Terry. I mean, Terry's pay originally was probably less than that. Probably.
Well, if you factor for inflation,
Yeah.
I'm not sure it was, but,
Yeah, I don't know.
well, maybe it was.
Yeah.
I
But-
bet it was.
I bet it was.
But I don't wanna beat a dead horse in the personnel thing, but it's difficult without a manager form of government to have discussions, because the personnel decisions have to be made by the select board, and they're public, and it's how a manager can call someone and say, geez, you're not getting, like the county, you're not getting a raise this year because, I'm not satisfied with this and that, and without it being a big public rigmarole. So that's just a thought.
We are the beneficiaries and the victims of our small size, which creates lack of critical mass, so we can't do a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But the benefits probably outweigh the deficiencies.
But anyway, we have a negotiated arrangement between Hannah and Terry and the board. At least I thought we did.
Yeah, I thought we did.
For this year, anyway, next year.
Contract services, how about if I ask questions from the meeting? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Have that. Contract service.
Okay,
That's the trio annual maintenance fee.
it certainly is.
So does it live here or does it now live in the cloud?
I do not want to go to the cloud.
Okay.
Eventually, we will have no choice but to go to the cloud.
So it's what's called a on-presence software type. You remember how much it costs?
Oh, I think it's like 6,000 or 7,000.
And $12,000 a year to maintain it, yeah, that's the software, business model bracket, we all know. And some of us may not want to run it.
If somebody could invent a new trio, they would make a lot of money.
I was gonna
Because
say,
all
Harris
towns
is the
would-
only game in town.
Yeah, all towns would jump ship really quickly.
Well, there are other factors, right, there's
It's
muted,
muted, so that, but that's
But-
more for big cities.
Yeah. yeah, no, Trio's definitely got, the market cornered in Maine.
Yeah.
Anybody?
I just wondered, the legal fees went up a good bit and that just sort of,
No, we're anticipating that our new code enforcement officer is gonna get us a new trouble. We are, seriously, yeah.
already,
I mean, we're already using it more for that. I mean, we saw a letter today that went to the attorney or an email from Terry.
well, we certainly want to have her back.
Still, that's not a lot of money for, you can go
No,
through that.
no, no, not at all.
Plus, we did just get a letter from.
Of an increase.
Yeah, but that they're,
They're
fees.
increasing their pay.
Freddie Finley, Freddie? No.
Yeah,
Tech support. And forget about the dollars, to job getting done here, inspection. Wrong forum, huh? Okay.
It's a work in progress, so that,
they've had some personnel changes.
yes, and I actually had a discussion this morning, but
Yeah, I get a sense from the last select board meeting that all was not well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think we're on,
Pardon?
I think we're going in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 5,000 for the year, you've already gone with 3 in 1 quarter. Do we need to have it?
No, that would be 3/4. That's 3/4,
Oh,
right? Yeah,
Fiscal year start.
right.
I gotta get that.
Is Dream Local in this group as well?
Dream Local is under building and grounds,
Oh, okay.
because that makes sense.
All right,
But it's always been.
I'll ask that when we get to it. All right. Dues, fees, travel? Budget committee? Any questions?
Oh. No,
Insurance is formulaic.
right,
The other, standout items are replacement computers and modems, right?
Yep.
Which
which,
makes sense.
What are workshops? Classes that,
Like that you guys go to.
yeah.
Hannah's been doing a lot of them.
Yeah.
oh, right.
No. Absent any further questions for Terry? Is there a motion for the budget committee to grant preliminary approval with the admin budget in the amount of $280,026? Is there Final opportunity until Thursday or Monday? All in favor? Thank you, Terry. You're speaking for the assessors? How do you provide it, so,
We're gonna work right straight down through.
oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
The
The agenda.
Agenda.
Let's go back to building and grounds, sorry,
Oh, no.
or let's go to building and grounds.
Well, no, we still got reeval to do. Under.
Oh, the legal reserve.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack.
53.
We're K3 going through, yeah.
53.
53.
And it's line 1161.
Oh, thank you, Terry, for putting the current amounts.
You're welcome.
That's very helpful.
She was trained for 9 years by Moira asking that question, and then the reserves were opened up.
So I'm curious as to why the department had to say 0 and the select board could blank that.
They don't, they have nothing to do with it, so.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, that was-
Yeah, that's why it was 0, because no department head. Last year, we were out of line on how the state figures our valuation. And compared to what ours is, we were more than 10% out of line. We were lower than what the state said. And if we kept it that way, then everybody loses whatever the difference. It was 15% at the time. Everybody who has a homestead exemption or veterans exemption or any of the others, I think there's 1 or 2 others, they get decreased by the amount of that difference. So if you're supposed to get a $20,000 decrease in your homestead, instead of getting 20,000, you get 85% of 20,000 decreased. So the idea was last year we increased across the board, everybody's value went up 15%. This year, we may or may not do that again because we are out of line again. At some point, the state will tell us we have to fix that by doing a reval. We can do a local reval or a special reval or across the board reval. But the anticipation by our assessor's agent is that not everybody is in that same boat. That there's starting to be a difference in neighborhoods as to whether or not you're close to the state's valuation of it. So that means that one person, the value is higher than what it should be, and others are lower than what they should be. So now we're not taxing everybody at the same pain level. And that's called the quality or internal difference. And when that gets out of whack, they tell you have to. We anticipate that the state is going to require us to, or we're going to say it's so far out of line that we don't like it.
Based on just the assessor's opinion,
It's not the assessor's opinion.
what's it based on?
It's based on the state's valuation of properties based on sales for 3 years. And our valuation of properties, our valuations of properties are based on what it was set 10 years ago when we evaluated all of them with annual increases to new properties. So even if we were close then, we're going to get a skew as we go on.
I get all that, but you said some neighborhoods are changing as opposed to others. Is that just based on the assessors?
No, it's based on the states,
Okay,
the states,
just being where those.
the
values
sales are.
Basically, in this town, it's waterfront versus non-waterfront.
Right.
I imagine waterfront's going down in value.
Funny you should mention that. The last time we did the reeval, it was because non-waterfront was about on par with what the state said it should be. but the value of waterfront was significantly below what the state said it should be. So we were overtaxing the non-waterfront and undertaxing the waterfront. This time, so far, it looks like it's just the opposite. I don't know where it's gonna be when we do the reeval, but, or make the decision to, but right now, it looks like. Well, and we think we know the reason.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can't imagine. I wanna know.
We think we know the reason, and that's because the boom that has happened over the last few years that did finally hit South Thomaston. I mean, the whole nation was seeing an increase in the value of everybody's property except for South Thomaston, and then all of a sudden it hit us. So that's typical. It's kind of a wave that hits us. But it impacted non-waterfront properties more because there were more of those available, sight unseen, purchased with cash, and in many cases, more than the asking price. And they weren't, not a lot of waterfront was available. There was a lot of non-waterfront available. So now the sales from those time periods are catching up to us. So the value now that the state shows is non-waterfront is out of whack more than waterfront. They're both still out of whack. Our anticipation, now, if we said it was out of whack right now, we want to do a reval right now, two things would stop us. Well, three things. One is none of the reval companies that are out there are able to do it this year or next year, or even the year after. It's the following year when they said, yeah, we can do it. 27, I think was the year they said they could do it. Maybe 26. 26. The other is we don't have enough money in our reserve account to pay it. Although we had expected it to be about $250,000, looks like it might be $150,000. So it is within sight because we currently have 95,000 in there. And the other is, last time we jumped into the reeval with very little prep to the community. We're gonna do it in a few months. This is what's gonna happen. Come ask questions, and people would show up at your house to evaluate your property. And we didn't do a lot of preparation. We didn't do the groundwork we should have done to get the town ready for a reval. And so that's another reason I don't want to do one this year or next year, because I want to take a full year to get the town ready to do one.
I think it was important.
Okay,
We were concerned that the volatility in the market has
That's-
not settled out yet.
yeah,
And
good point.
that's a concern I have. I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball, all that. I just got a feeling that it's gonna settle out at some point.
Right.
I don't wanna jump in, spend all this money in a reval and then have things drastically change. That's always a gamble, but a risk, but.
So to go to the heart of the question, that's why we increased the amount we're suggesting to put into the reval reserve account from 10,000 to 20,000, so that when we do have to do one, we'll have enough money to do it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there a motion
Could I ask
go ahead.
a question? So all that you said, we are gonna have to do it sometime, and the state's gonna make us do it.
Yes. I think the town is gonna make us do it too. They don't know it, but, and they won't admit it, but I think they're gonna.
Well, they'll start to notice that, hey, I think I'm being overtaxed and my
Right. Yes,
neighbor's getting free ride.
right.
But it also sounds like you really need to book ahead quite a ways.
Yes,
And if you don't wanna do it, maybe can we nail down an agreement with someone who will do it in like 2027?
yeah, we're already in those discussions with two different companies.
And then we could say to the state, well, we can't do it until then because there's
Right,
nobody
yeah.
available, but we've done
We have
our
them on the
due
list.
diligence, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And don't shoot us.
Right.
Yeah, and personally, I'm more concerned about the quality. everybody's being treated equally unfairly, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But it's when you get inequality, so.
I'm now starting to use that line all over my life.
Equally unfair.
So it's true. Yeah.
The other concern or the thing we just have to be aware of is, I don't think it's ever gonna settle down, or it's gonna be years, because we're starting to see so much climate change. Every year is like, oh my God, we could never have foreseen this. At some point, we're just gonna say, okay, well, this is the snapshot for now, and we're just gonna have to go with it. But by 2027, some of this will have played out, and we'll be beginning to see which waterfront properties are gonna be going into the drain, for example.
It's interesting you say that, because I read an article that appraisers are starting now to factor that into appraisals on waterfront property.
But we're talking now 3 years ahead.
But it's interesting they bring that up.
Yeah.
And for example, was it just, I can't remember if it was here or somewhere else that I heard it. St. George is now figuring which properties they're going to abandon.
Yeah.
They're gonna, because they're too close to the line.
Now, do we have to have a budget item in for like this? I mean, how does that really assess? Not, obviously not for the assessors, right? How does, like, the flooding assessment, like, do we need to do that as a town? Like, how does that work?
FEMA does
that.
develop some flood maps, yeah.
Can they just provide those to us?
They provide, we have to adopt the program as a town, and we're
Right.
supposed to enforce their regulations. Or you can get booted out of the program.
Is that public information?
Yeah.
And then nobody can get flood insurance, because you can't get it on an open market. So that's why it's important that the code officer enforce the regulations, because theoretically, most of the town could be booted out of the program if it doesn't enforce it properly.
In the program, or do we have?
On who's building the floodplain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah, and you
Well-
can build in a floodplain, but it's gotta be certain,
Right,
you know.
there's also setbacks and percentages and
Right, right.
all of that.
Regulations, restrictions, height, you know.
And Al's Head just went through this. They apparently there were 7 to 12 individual properties of all of them that are in the floodplain, and they've got quite a bit. That had not properly applied the requirements of the floodplain, FEMA's floodplain rules. And so they were going to boot the town, everybody across the board, whether they had done it right or wrong, would be out of the program and would not be eligible for FEMA subsidized flood insurance. So a couple of bad apples doing something wrong would have affected the whole town. And they went through about 1.5 years worth of legal actions against individual properties in conjunction with FEMA to eliminate, to keep from having to be hit with that big hammer. So it's very important that our CEO stays on top of that.
So you need the FEMA blessing to, I mean, does insurance flow from this? Like the insurance companies say, we will not insure your house because FEMA doesn't think it should be there?
Most flood insurance is not available, period, along the coast,
On a private market.
unless you get it through FEMA subsidized insurance. So, and then they will only do that for towns that are in good stead with the FEMA regulation.
That should be attention here.
Well, yeah, and typically if something's financed, it's not an issue because the banks are very on top of this. It's when property is not financed that. Right. I mean, the bank's not gonna invest their money in something.
It's gonna be in the water in 2 years.
And not insured.
Right.
We created this successfully.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
No, I think you can go on about.
Is there a motion to approve, the addition of $20,000 to the revaluation reserve? Preliminary. Source.
So
Second,
A second.
we have further discussion. All in favor? All of us. All of us approved.
Not? We did.
We did.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, building and grounds.
You give us page.
Page 13.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there was a lot of that.
There is a minor change to this.
Okay.
Under mowing. We had budgeted $6,000 and when we got our bids in, that's not gonna cover it. So we're changing that number to 7,500.
And the bid's been accepted.
Yes.
Any highlights, lowlights, Terry?
I'm sorry.
Why such an increase?
The person that was doing it decided that they didn't have the personnel or to do it, and we put it out to bid and we. That's good to go.
They actually backed out in the middle of a contract period.
And it's double, pretty much, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the only other bid was far higher than that.
And it was late in the year to be doing it.
Far higher than the 7,500.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And we just got news of this like a month ago. I mean, almost right on top of mowing season. We're lucky we got the bid, I think.
What is labor? It seems to be in
There's
260,
someone-
line 263.
363.
So you want to does labor?
mhm. Nice, nice, good answer.
But sometimes we need someone to
Extra help.
do something around the back of the building or. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be wild.
Yeah.
It's just so general. Like, everyone is-
You know,
Change the light of home.
sometimes we have someone that you know, something painted and. John doesn't do it, so we have to hire somebody.
And if they don't have insurance, which a lot of people that have insurance don't wanna do a little piddly job. We can kind of get around that, that's what we're doing by making them an employee. And then paying them hourly and they're covered by workers' comp and, you know, so. We actually have a little helper around helping us a little bit right now, so. Time to time.
And custodian is new.
No, it was just,
I thought Donna was gone and being replaced.
Donna still does the library.
Oh.
But this was too much for her, so we do have a new person. And we do pay her a little bit more than what we ever paid for custodian.
But she's been hired on a contract basis, right?
Yeah.
So she'll come out of another line.
Oh, right, when we hired her, we thought she was gonna be there, so we will have to change that. Contract with services. I will make that change.
And she does have.
Yeah,
Was that just a matter of take that out? or-
it's not gonna affect the bottom line, I'm just gonna move it down to contract with services.
Oh, okay.
Her portion of the custodian. And it will also affect. Lower, Piper and Med too, a little bit, because it could be.
Let's go talk about rate services.
This is the gentleman, you know, they more than anything, but on line 2, the main family leave act. They know in general what it is, but how are they figuring? You have to take out a certain amount or have,
Yes,
because it doesn't, it came up on administration and I just.
you're gonna find it, anytime where there's a wage that we're paying something, you're gonna find it, it's a one-year premium on wages.
Okay,
And it's 50/50 employee. And they have to start collecting July 1st. So next year it will be bigger because it will collect for a whole year.
mhm. I just out of curiosity.
Are there any other major regulation changes that you're doing in this budget? Okay. All right, so. Fuel is down because you switched to propane, is that right? You get that right?
In part, it's because
And
there's,
because we have whether we have in solar,
And the solar on the,
that will take some of the electricity, but yes, the propane. Maritime and talk to them, said, hey, can you convert this to what we use, and that's what he told me.
Green local. So originally, the website feedback was mostly positive.
Yep, it's stagnated.
It's stagnated.
Yep, I
The
agree.
site and the feedback,
The
as well?
site, the site stagnated. I think it's. I personally don't like the site, but it's what we have and we try to keep it updated the best we can.
yeah, I try to keep my name not associated with it.
But when I'm in the back room, I might have a little more time to play with it. So yes, I agree. It's,
How's the vendor?
well, they're fine. They send the bill, we pay it.
what line is that?
299, I think.
Yes, the internet.
Oh,
The lesson there for anybody is don't give somebody an important project to run if they've never done anything like it. They can go get that experience somewhere else.
get what you pay for.
Yeah, I think so. So I did.
You get a lot of people complaining about our website also?
No, I was surprised at how positive the initial feedback was. And then now I agree, it's stagnant. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff out of date.
Yeah.
When it really bothers me, I call you out.
We try to keep it updated, you know, it's kind of falls there down on our list of things we're doing. I do think that some of the photos need to be updated. They've been the same ones since the beginning. And I do think it needs help, I agree.
Bring the youthfulness.
Can I ask a good question?
Sure.
So Terry, the electric, just as an example, I see it's separated between electric and Gilbert Butler is separate.
Yeah.
But the 9,900 includes this building, the Sand Salt Shed, Dana's.
Yeah,
So that's a conglomerate of,
right, because that's the way it always was,
Yeah.
forever and a day. I didn't separate it out.
no, it just strikes me that our chart of accounts is getting
It is.
crazy and.
Well, in a chart of accounts, it just all goes under electric.
I know,
We keep it
I
separate.
know.
Because there was a
But that's
question.
neither here nor there, that's something that we don't need to burden Hannah with in her first year. But I do think it needs to be redone, it's like any chart of account, people just stick lines in, the next thing you know, it loses its integrity. But. Okay,
So why is the select board budgeting zero for electricity for Gilbert Butler?
The solar array will
Solar.
take care of 100% of the
Oh,
building's
I
use. It will
missed
be
that.
58% of the town's usage should be covered by the solar.
And we got a grant for the solar array.
I didn't
I
know
shouldn't say we, because I had nothing to do with it.
Of course, it's gonna make a difference if it comes in August rather than April, but
Yeah,
Don't you still have to pay $21 a month to CMP even if you're solar?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
yeah,
think
no one has said that to me.
Pay delivery? Oh, no, not if it's your solar, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I know homeowners do.
If you, as a homeowner, I do, if you have a battery backup, you might not, but you still want to be connected to the grid to some extent. And being connected to the grid means you paying a service fee.
Yeah, it's like $22 a month.
Yeah.
But
It has gone
the
up.
town still has an electric bill, it's only 58% that's covered.
Right.
So you'll still be getting a bill, and that $21, I think, would be in it. Cause it's,
actually, I back up even further, I don't why we don't budget all of the expenses and then take the credit in as a revenue. Because in effect, we're sort of not depicting what we're spending at one of our buildings, so to speak.
Are we going to know what
Well,
our usage
I
is
don't, yeah,
on Guilford Butler?
I don't know enough about that, but it strikes me that would be a more appropriate way to budget it, but I don't wanna make a mountain out of a molehill, but.
I understand what you're saying though, because we have our solar panels cover our home, and then it trickles down to an outbuilding as well as our cottage. But our first home, we spend basically $22 a month to stay on the grid. But the rest of the buildings have cost us $168 and then $252 because we didn't get enough sunlight to cover the whole thing. For the most of it, so I figured out at some point, I said, hey, wait a second, maybe I should be budgeting based on all of that. Like, okay, so it's $20 a month for our home, and then it's $20 a month to have a separate line to the cottage. So I figured, oh, wait a second, that comes out to about $50-60 a month in reality, when you haven't gotten.
You don't know if the sunshine even.
Yeah, exactly. And weird thing is that I can see the results of sunshine. This past February, we had the same amount of sunlight as we did last June.
Wow.
You know, like, and you would have thought June would have been better, but that tells you how rainy it was.
Yeah, it was foggy.
So it is kind of it's an unknown, and until you live through it, and I think each year you're gonna find that it's a little bit different based on what the sun actually gives you. You know, like this February we did pretty well. I'm hoping April is really I'm tired of seeing big bills on the.
I guess I was under the impression that although it's cited at Guilford Butler, it was gonna be a credit to the town's overall electric bill, not necessarily to one building. Which is why I thought it would show up as, we would still budget what we spend for electricity, but Penny raises a good point, are we gonna know? I don't know enough about it.
You build a credit during the sunny months,
Right.
and then during the
Do
winter.
they take it off one building, or do they take it off the?
Yeah, it's trickling down.
Yeah,
to
it
the
trickles
other.
over. And you have to put in the address that you want it to trickle over to.
Okay. Yeah, I don't understand all that.
So 100% of the sunshine
Yeah.
goes to the.
But it just strikes me, we don't know what we're spending or would spend, but anyway, I don't wanna make a mountain out of a molehill.
After a year, you'll know.
Yeah,
I have a question.
and guess what, I'm not gonna worry about it, Kitty.
The new fire alarm system, is this the cheap option?
This is the expensive option. This is all the bells and whistles. This is,
The batteries.
What line is that?
it's the last one on this one, 314.
Oh, okay.
Why is the select board suggesting it if you're not into it? The other folks.
Because it was, at the time, it was the only number we had. It had just happened when we put all this together. We had just been advised by the fire chief that we didn't have any smoke alarms.
Is there a more appropriate number then at this point that you might have to put there? We're just planning worst case.
Yeah, I think if we spend $5,000, that would, I think 5,000 is the right number, but,
That might even be high.
and that
for what
might
you
even be
can-
high.
Because there are so many options that you can buy that are wireless that can go to people's phones. But it's what we're allowed to do, which is by the fire marshal, which we don't know.
That's the
The security. guard.
library.
Oh, okay, that's the libraries, okay.
That's the thing, so as you're saying, it's being a public building.
Right.
You have to do
What-
certain standards.
Right, what are we allowed to do?
Right.
This one is hardwired
David's
with
working on that,
Seacoast.
right?
Yeah.
Last I remember, David, the fire chief, was working on that with the fire marshal.
Yeah,
I don't think we've heard back from him yet, so. So it's a mushy number.
So you're comfortable leaving it there?
I agree with Jeff, I don't think we need too much.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the number is.
Right.
We can make up for road.
Yeah.
Yeah, the library, I mean, if you went through Seacoast or something, wouldn't that be?
This one,
comparable?
Yeah, I think this is,
This
a-
is Seacoast.
yeah,
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 But I-
yeah, but,
but
So you
the
have to
system,
put in a
the system.
system.
Right.
right,
It's not like it already exists.
It doesn't
Correct.
exist. Yeah.
yeah, this is the initial cost to get into it, and then there would be a Seacoast annual, but when you think about it, the requirement is that we have smoke alarms in the appropriate places, and there's a few places that could use one.
Over there and then.
Yeah, the basement probably. And then have them linked so that if the one in here goes off, it alarms all the rest of them. And it alarms somebody, maybe just after hours on their phone.
That's part of the problem, the alarm could go off out there and they would never know it in the office.
Right.
Until the fires come through. But weren't we gonna purchase and put up a few battery operated in the interim? I thought we did.
I thought we had.
I thought we had.
Yeah, I thought we were already. I thought we had, actually,
Well, I do know that when you're talking about an alarm system, you're talking electrical.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
So that price is not as ridiculous when you think about an electrician coming in to do something like that.
Yeah, they'll put in a hardwired system.
yeah, and again, that's what we're saying is we don't think that that's necessary.
But it wouldn't necessarily have to be interconnected. It could be interconnected from what I understood through like telephone.
Right, or
So
what?
each individual head could go off, for lack of a better word, and it wouldn't have to be linked to another head, the other head. So we don't know enough about it yet.
So if it were really 5,000 at the time of town meeting, could this be subject to a motion on the
Yes.
floor to reduce it?
Yes,
Which I would rather see than have that just flow to surplus and get taxed for on it.
yes.
Would you agree?
I agree 100%. Yeah, and the reality is that if, before we get through this process, we find the right solution.
Can you
Then
explain
we-
what you just said?
I know.
So we approved nights. They know it's 5,000. Somebody can make a motion on the floor at town meeting to reduce the 19.5. And the town can.
But the tax, what's
The
the tax implication?
the tax implication is that you're approving a budget for 19,000. The 14,000 flows to surplus, but you pay taxes on.
But if we reduce it, then we won't.
Right.
And generally, those motions pass.
Yeah,
The reductions almost.
yeah.
Almost always
It's
finish.
showing one that's never.
But then where does the 14,000 go if we're not sticking in surplus now? Or like, we're still gonna get taxed on that, right?
No, not.
No, we'll take it
That's
out.
not the budget.
If we vote at town meeting to reduce it, then it just comes right out of the budget.
We would raise 14,000 less in taxes.
That's the final.
Right.
Yeah, which, and that could, because that's not done till the August, September timeframe. When I was saying we'd know what the surplus is by the time we set the mill rate. We set the mill rate in August or September, and it's based on what the town votes on, so any decrease at the town. I will have to say, I don't remember a single time somebody wanted to increase the budget that it didn't pass.
Yes. Rich's famous tennis
Yeah,
court
you-
motion
It got,
that Mike disallowed.
well, yeah, but the next year he brought it back and it passed.
Yeah,
The only reason it was never voted on, but when it was voted on, it passed.
Right.
Is there a mechanism for flagging it in the warrant article saying under review?
No, we wouldn't do that, but, I mean, that's part of what our job is, just to make sure that,
Keep an eye on
Keep
it.
remembering.
Yeah, right.
and to highlight it during, for those that have been to the town meetings, and I'm not saying anybody here doesn't go, but there's not a lot of people that don't go. We typically will make comments, from the select board on different items.
And I personally like to keep the warrant very clean.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a fine line between information and propaganda.
Right. If there any more questions, is there a motion to preliminarily approve the grounds and building and grounds budget of 93,126?
94,000.
I thought we were gonna knock this down to 5,000.
Did I do it wrong?
No, not.
No, we did not.
Not yet.
No, we're gonna just leave it there and see what they get a hard number before town meeting.
6,000 to 7,500.
There's so much.
Mowing
Yes, add 1,500.
at 1,500.
So it's 94,626.
Guys, would you adjust one? That's it.
The mowing went up.
Oh, that's right.
So did the number change?
Yeah, 94,626.
94,
626.
626.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? Thank you, team.
Who moved and seconded?
We don't know. I don't think we did.
Oh, we skipped that.
Let's start over.
So moved.
Second.
I was wondering about that.
All in favor?
It's called expedited.
All right, John's turn to shine. Alan,
Well, yeah.
Building and, building
Oh,
reserve.
building.
Yeah, I thought we had a.
But,
About the reserves.
but again, we're recommending 0. Because we're taking out of it.
No, because we had a fair amount in there.
Yeah, we have 34,000.
Yeah, that's right.
34, that the building reserve is. Zero. Zero recommendation, but.
34,009.
Which is why we're recommending 0. We felt that was a sufficient amount to.
Because you bought a boiler. Already, yes,
Yeah, install.
and you have $10,000 in the budget and you haven't spent that much yet.
No, no, but we did just get a little surprised. About the roof, the metal roof,
Oh, yeah.
and I went out and looked at it, and it does need. To be replaced, there's lots of rust spots in it, it was $9,000. So at 34,000, that's all of it. The metal roof over the entrance that comes back or what
Just the entrance.
yeah, but it's a pretty good sized area and it leaks, but I don't think the leaks have anything to do with the rust spots. I think it's because it's very flat and there's a cap on it. When that wind blows, cause I took the tiles out by hand at his desk and right where the peak is, I think what happens is the water gets on the metal and blows up underneath and then there's probably a little gap under that cap. Yeah.
Talking about this building?
It's not like it's, you know, we don't need buckets on the ground, I mean, it's just little stains in the tile. But the roof itself is, if not this year, probably next year.
Yeah.
How much do you think?
Well, we got an estimate of $9,000. But I wanted to talk to John Hanson because I thought those were supposed to have like a 50-year lifespan.
Oh, good point.
Standing seam.
Yeah, yeah.
If the roof needs to be replaced next year, why wouldn't they put more in the reserve?
Well, I think we got 34 in there and the estimate was $9,000.
Oh, I thought the answer was $9,000 for just the one piece.
It is.
Oh, I thought you were saying the whole.
Oh, no, I don't think the whole, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, not yet, not yet.
It's all the same page, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it might be. I think it
so.
might be.
How old is that?
Well, when did we build that front office addition? When you started here, Carolyn was in that little,
Right, it was little when I was here the first time.
when was that?
87, 8.
So I'm gonna guess 95, 96, 1995, 96. Just guessing,
28 years.
I think you're right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a long way from 50.
Well, the house we lived in Maryland had a standing seam roof. And we had to paint it with a waterproof coating periodically.
Yeah, that probably could have happened here. There's little rust spots about that big all over.
It's where the
I
ground
mean, that
comes
was what we
from.
were told.
No, no, it's not. It's weird. And I think probably if it had been painted or sealed or something over the years, it probably would be okay, but I haven't had a chance to talk to John Hanson yet. I was gonna try to catch him, but he's not as easy to catch anymore because he's not in business down there, so.
So, when the building was constructed, did it have an anticipated life, and how close are we?
Well, that's an addition.
Yeah, no.
The original building was, oh, I don't know, that's before my time.
Well,
Yeah.
when we were talking about this edition, but it was brought up that the lifespan of the metal building was 25 years, and we were at that, past that, at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was built in 76.
Was it 76?
Mhm.
Okay.
Carolyn got married.
So is there a motion to preliminarily approve the funding of the building reserve at zero?
Sorry.
Any discussion? Zero should not generate any discussion.
Yeah. Good point.
Consider the audience.
So, if I could, so if we do decide to replace the roof, we could take it out of the reserve fund, talking to the select board, we could take it out of that reserve fund, because we haven't budgeted for that.
Right, yeah, and I think that that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And that's within your authority.
Yeah.
Well, the town meeting will give you with.
Right.
Yeah, but we may do.
Okay. John.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, let me
So
Let me start out for a couple of comments. First of all, having the fiscal year split in July makes it very difficult when you're dealing with a road. When you particularly don't have contractors that could care less about July 1st. Doesn't matter to them whether it's July 2nd or June 23rd. That was an unanticipated result, but we had some work budgeted for this year. It is still supposed to take place. We're gonna do hopefully the reclaim project in a couple of bad sections on Westbrook Street. If anybody's been out there lately, there was some severe potholes that have now is patched. As of yesterday, by your uncompensated road commissioner. And you take your life in your hands out there. Hopefully that's gonna happen this spring, and that's already budgeted for in the current budget, and we're gonna pay the Stump Dump Road shortly, hopefully before July 1st, if not, we'll have to carry that forward. And we're gonna spend a lot of the money that's unspent in this year's budget. You'll see the actuals are down quite a bit, because we have 3 cross culverts to replace on Westbrook Street. And several side culverts. So a lot of that, it looks like we haven't spent our money, but I anticipate a lot of it's gonna go. There's a couple of bad trees on Pleasant Beach Road that look like they're about ready to come over. And we can always do ditching and burn removal. The more I learn about our roads and walk around and actually look at things, and we got a lot of work to do. We got lots of culverts. I'm working on a culvert inventory. We don't have one, on all our roads, and for example, on Hayden Point Road alone, we have 28 culverts. You wouldn't realize that until you start looking at, lots of them are galvanized, they're old, I don't know how old.
Is that including driveway?
Yeah,
culverts?
yeah. Yeah, 28 on Hayden Point, just as an example. That's just an example, yeah. Fortunately, a lot of our big culverts are in pretty good shape. The one exception might be, I'm concerned about, Waters Beach Road, where it goes down in the gully there. I've watched that a couple of times, and it looks like the water is going around the culvert on some of the hard storms, and that's not good.
Oh, the beavers, are they still a problem?
Well, I think, yeah, I guess so. They're up and back there, you know, but I think that whole section needs some attention. Plus, we need to, I'm just gonna give you an overview, macro overview before I jump into the budget. We need to do something down in McLuhan's or just before McLuhan's. I think we can potentially lose that road out down there today. We were putting a lot of the rocks back over there. It's undermining the road right there, right in front of George Hart's. You must be familiar, yeah. And we have lots of ditches that haven't been cleaned out in years, culverts that are plugged, even if they don't need to be replaced, they need to be dug out. And of course, that's always very expensive, and particularly expensive on Westbrook Street, because you can't work out there without flaggers, you just can't.
Can the state help out with culverts, because it's a big push to put in larger,
Yeah, they do have, grant program for large culverts that are related to fish passage. But I'm not sure if we have any of those. The one exception,
Waterman's Beach Road.
I was gonna say, that might be the one exception. So anyways, that's sort of the macro picture. A lot of our pavement, Grierson Road is in trouble. That really needs to be paved. Westbrook Street is in trouble, and hopefully I'm budgeting to pave the whole thing later on in the fall after we do the reclamation project, assuming that's approved. So let me walk you through the budget, if I could, real quick. The road commissioner's salary, actually shows an actual of $50. I wasn't supposed to get any money, but somehow I got paid and I didn't even know it. It was in my assignment.
Is that what you get work those?
Well, the idea was to put the $100 in case I wasn't a select person, because then I would be eligible for workers' comp in case I got injured on Westbrook Street. If I got killed, it doesn't do any good. And now I have a helper who's been helping me out patching and signs and stuff like that, and so that's what the wages are. I budgeted money for several more culverts that need to be replaced. I can't give you an exact number because it depends on where it is, and it depends on whether we need flaggers, and I'm not sophisticated enough at this point to have a plan put together. I'm just really still gathering information. Culvert inventory being one of them. And then I threw in numbers for ditching and berm removal. Lots of ditching up could be done on Grierson Road, down there on Waterman's Beach Road, down by Cousins. Those ditches have just filled up with bushes, and it's almost a swamp down there. And then there's patching, sweeping, striping. Hopefully we'll stripe Waterman, Westbrook after it's paved, and do Island Road and the middle stripe on Waterman's Beach. So that's the main thing there. I did budget, I talked to Doug Conley and Dorsky. I'm proposing we budget $4,500 to get a survey and a preliminary plan for what we can do down across from George Hart's on Island Road. And then hopefully maybe once we have a number and a preliminary plan, we can maybe get a grant or something to fix that area. But that took a real beating in those two storms. I mean, it moved huge rocks around. So that's what that 4,500 is for. You get some preliminary information there. Insurance is kind of is what it is. Terry comes up with those numbers. Signs, that's probably not enough. We lose signs. Although I found 2 yesterday in the woods when we were cutting some bushes on Island Road. But of course, the trouble is you can only use those road signs in one place. So once you've already replaced it, I did get the pole though. I have money just for culverts themselves, 4,000, and then the paving is mainly the entire length of Westbrook Street. I don't think I have anything else other than the plan in spring, which is the Stump Dump Road and the reclaim project, which is not really
So
paid.
the 171,000 in paving, is that not, that's more than the reserve, so it's gonna come from appropriation or allocation of excise or?
Well, hey, that's not my job, it's road commissioner.
Nice.
The other hand, now I can go to my selectmen. No, but no, we don't have any money left in the reserve, right? I mean, we won't have after we, correct, Eric?
Right after.
After we do these
after you've
spring
done all your
projects, it's
stuff.
theoretically gonna be zeroed out. I will say right now, it's a pretty good time for paving. The cost of asphalt and stuff has come down and staying down compared to where it was 2 years ago.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you, man. On Monday, I gotta replace 3 cracked wheels.
So, let me just look real quick here. Make sure I'm not misspeaking.
What's the, in red, the negative 67,243? Just below the page.
No,
Hmm?
that was
That's what we need.
last year,
Yeah, we reduced it at town meeting
right?
because last year, this goes back to this July 1st thing. I wasn't sure when we were gonna get it done, whether it was gonna be before July 1st or after July 1st, so we budgeted. No,
It's upper money, isn't it?
is it? I don't know, I don't remember. I thought it, you're right, yeah,
I think you are.
yeah, you are.
It's what?
It's that ARP,
ARP.
no. Oh, yeah, this is put selectmen's hat on.
Yeah.
We had $67,000, if I got this right, left in that ARP money that we hadn't spent. And there was talk at the time in Washington that they were gonna claw it back. So we wanted to spend it, and we could spend it basically on anything we wanted, because they changed the guidelines. Terry can tell you more about that. So we did some paving projects last year, Island Road, the balance of it, and we paid a chunk of that, $67,000 from the ARPA money, with the understanding at the time, now maybe things have changed, moved on, but that that would increase our surplus by 67,000 if we had some other projects come up that we wanted to take, quote unquote, from ARPA money that was no longer ARPA money. That would be available. Is that's your recollection?
Yeah.
So that's money that, theoretically, our surplus is $67,000 higher than it would have been because of that. And I don't know if it's still the plan to use some of that money for other things or not. I know we had talked about a little bit of it on the tennis court, but I'm not sure we need it now with the revised plan.
Right.
So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's it. So, snowplow contract, we are gonna put it out for bid once John writes the bid package. And because we're up this year, so we factored in an increase of, Barry, help me.
Did I write it down? I didn't write it down.
Well, we can tell, right? Because it was 149.
No, 10,000.
Yeah, we factored an increase of 10 grand.
Is the state still honoring its piece of this?
Yeah.
And-
Yes.
But it's offset by what, 6 months or a year?
Yeah, 6 months, we have to send them an invoice and then they.
We actually make a little money on that, right? Or we
I
were,
think we were, yeah.
yeah. Not much, you don't have to say that publicly to the state.
Speaking of disasters, is any of the disaster relief money the feds have, I think, allowed Maine for those last storms? Can any of that be used for the road damage to roads?
Well, we didn't have enough initial damage. You gotta have 3,800
Yes, per category.
per category, and we didn't have enough initial damage, but, and Terry's looking into if we can kind of reach back, because we still need to do some repair work. I mean, we need to do the section by McLuhan, but that could be a couple of years away. And I got a feeling we're not gonna. But maybe not, I don't know. And then we need to do some other work right on where Village Road comes into Island Road. Just beyond Huey Dunk's Wharf there, that really kind of almost collapsed there. Hopefully that won't be too big a project, it's just a matter of setting some big rocks in there or something. So I guess the answer is, if we came up with enough money in a certain category, we could, but you're looking into now how far we can reach back, right?
Right.
So potential.
And
So are we smiling or frowning that we raised those two sections of Island Road?
Oh, I think people are smiling.
yeah, yeah, no
I mean,
kidding.
that road, if you saw what the debris was, I mean, that would have been under 2 feet of water.
I just wanted to get that on the record.
Yeah, yeah, anybody who thought it was frivolous,
I don't think there's anybody that wouldn't admit that they were wrong.
yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
Even?
I don't know.
I'm not saying, oh, but
well,
who knows what I'm talking about?
So do I.
Yeah, I mean, the debris was right up at road level there. I mean,
Yeah.
all over the road, actually.
well, and it came up on the Boyard side right up to
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
so it would have been over it.
20 years from now, they're gonna raise it again.
Yeah, I'm saying,
It was barely high enough.
I don't think it was
this
high
time.
enough.
Well,
Yeah.
I understood, Trueshead Island was cut off for,
Well,
No, but that was
The bridge.
oh,
The new
which is
bridge.
state's problem. Well, it's not the state's problem if you live on it.
Right, yeah.
Right,
Or at least so far it's the state's problem. I have them, it's difficult to get a definition of what is the bridge.
Right.
And so far I have them convinced that all the approaches are part of the bridge.
The state covers bridges.
Not all of them, but
Yeah.
most of the state bridges, yeah. But where does the bridge start and end is the fine.
Which came up during that rebuilding.
well, any place that grout should be part of the bridge, right?
My argument,
Yeah,
and so far they've done
So
it.
far, they've accepted,
Right.
it, yeah.
Can't build that bridge unless you get the ground out there.
that's right.
And so far they bought that argument, but there was one guy who said, oh, no, you're responsible for everything but the bridge itself, and I said, really? I said, all that concrete with a riprap in, well, maybe not that, so I mean, no. So anyways, and I could spend easily 100,000 more. If I could get people to work. That's another issue.
Well, John, thank you so very much for all that you do on this.
I enjoy it. I'm ready to give up this job, but I'll.
When do you make it on that?
Yeah, you still got 2 more years in this job, 2.5.
Two? No.
2.5.
One.
No,
No, I have one.
she has one, you have
You have
2.
two. Oh, darn.
Yes.
Okay.
So is there a motion for preliminary approval of the town roads budget of $382,757 unless there were changes that I don't know?
I don't think so, but you're more than willing to add more.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you so much. And the reserve is, there's no record, no funding.
No,
So is there a motion to fund the paving reserve at 0?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? I think we'll get back to the fund, pave, alternating years for the next year.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be weather dependent, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the cost of paving, I mean, that's, as long as the cost of paving stays down, then there's no reason to
Right,
not do what you
And Grissom
can do.
Road really needs it too.
Yeah.
especially if you keep generating those surpluses.
Island Road's held up pretty good over the winter, I thought. Because the second you put it down, it immediately started cracking.
Assessor. the select board speak to this, or do you speak for them, Terry?
Oh, I think that's the. Questions, if anyone has one.
It's all about Kevin, right? How's that working out?
Noah.
I think it's better than it was.
And on par, expense wise or less?
Say that again.
The contract expenses for the, well, it's an hourly thing, right?
Yeah,
Rob had overhead that we had to pay for.
correct.
Kevin has less, if not done. So,
Yeah, I think it is only choose. I think the one downside to having Kevin is only one of them.
yeah, no back.
And of course, he immediately
Yeah.
got sick after.
Hurt his leg and,
He got bit by a spider.
yeah.
Almost lost his arm. Or-
Yeah,
The software is vision?
yes.
Questions? Not easy.
That's a nice, easy increase. It's hard to debate.
Yeah, I think there's a couple more flats coming too. Motion to approve the assessor's budget of 35,909. Preliminarily. Any discussion? All in favor? Aaron. You're gonna do our tax. What page is it?
It's line 393, page
19.
19.
Oh, there. Go ahead.
Do you want me to go down through it? Any questions?
No, just any highlights. I think we know.
Do they use this with me? In my software?
But you have all your certifications?
For the code enforcement, I am the only person becoming the LPI. Terry doesn't.
Terry does that still. And anticipates doing it into the future.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So Terry, remind me what the average hours, I know it varies. In the winter, it might be less in the summer.
20 in CEO
And 10
and
in
10
in the front
in the front
office,
office.
okay. On average,
on an average.
so in the winter, it might be less in the summer, I mean.
And you anticipating that increasing in the future? Or do you think it can stay something like that?
I think it's gonna depend on the new affordable housing mandate, and if that really affects us, which it may or may
It
not.
may or may not, depend on
So-
how they force it.
What kind of growth we may or may not have?
Well, the mandates put a lot more, put workload on the CEO. So the state mandates that are unfunded, which is typical, will require the CEO to do things that the CEO hasn't been responsible for in this town forever.
Like,
First of all of the new additions that they have forced us to put into our town ordinance, those permits have to be done by the CEO, not by the planning board. It specifically says the planning board can't do it, so they've all got to be done by the CEO. Any new additional buildings on your property have to have proof to the CEO that there is potable water. We've always had a requirement that the LPI confirm that you can get rid of your sewage, but we've never had a requirement that you prove that you can get good drinkable water. Now we have that requirement. We will have that on July 1st. If you're doing affordable housing, you have to do documents that indicate that you will rent or sell only to people at this particular income, and you have to put that into the deeds. For 30 years, she has to be the one that has to check it. So there's going to be an increased workload for the CEO. One of the questions that we're wrestling with right now is the state is requesting that towns regulate short-term rentals. And we don't do anything with short-term or long-term rentals. So how much of that we accept and do will make her life more difficult or easier. It could make it easier. So
That go on effect July 1 too?
July 1, it'll be the ordinance. See, the land use ordinance amendment that's being proposed.
Say your house is already rented out, what happens then? To your, say your house is rented out for the summer already,
Right.
and things move on July 1st.
Well-
Grandfathered in for the rest of the.
But you just have to be registered, right?
Well, what we're
Right now.
hoping to do is only require short-term rentals to be registered with the town. We're not planning, and I don't think in any case are we currently thinking about regulating them or mandating or doing anything else or collecting any fees or anything like that. I can tell you that other towns are. They're taking it as an opportunity to capture some of that money and to enforce some of the building codes and life safety codes that they have not been able to do in the past. We are not going in that direction. As a matter of fact, there's right now the discussion between the ordinance review committee, the planning board, and we just had a public meeting on it. The discussion is whether or not we register or not register. I'm pushing for register because I think it's the lesser of all the evils. And I think it shows our intent to the state that we are complying with the intent of their mandate without it costing us a lot. And that may even relieve the CEO of, not the CEO, but the front office of some requirements, because right now people come in and say, is there anywhere to rent? And sometimes they'll say, oh, go look it up, or they'll go online and try to find someplace to rent or buy. And if you're registering them, then they'll have a list that they can provide. So anyway, we digress a bit.
Isn't part of that though also, because if we're gonna have increased density, is so that they're not all turned into short-term rentals?
It's yeah,
Because it's supposed to be for
right.
residents to live.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too far
Yeah.
afield, but this is an important issue that's going to come up at the town meeting. The mandate, this town has two strong desires that have been codified in the comprehensive plan. The town went out when they did the comp plan 10 years ago and said, what's important to the town? The two biggies were affordable housing, as you can imagine, but beating out affordable housing was maintaining the environment. And that specifically addresses density. So if we allow quarter acre lots, then that impacts the environment. It impacts the aquifer. It impacts the landscape and our rural nature here. On the other hand, if you want affordable housing and you want more housing and you want low income housing and you want development of that type of property, you have to increase the density. So those two desires from the town conflict with each other. And the state's position is, we don't care about your environment. Well, I hate to say it that way, but the laws that they have just forced upon us have said those now are taking a backseat to increase density. And we want you to increase the density. We want you to have more houses. So there's two laws that go hand in hand. And what they've done is they've said affordable housing, and here are the rules. You can have 5 houses on one buildable lot. So there's affordable housing. Then there's also additional housing. And they have two different categories of additional housing. One's called additional and the other is accessory. So it's real easy to confuse the two. And they have different rules for those and how many you can build on a buildable lot. So it's good. It's very complicated. We have hired, it's one of the reasons the lawyer's fee has gone up. We have hired our lawyer, who is an expert in this area, to write the words for that. And when they were stronger than what the planning board and the ordinance review committee thought the town could bear, we asked her if it was a way of softening it. So she's gone back and softened it. So we are now, right now, doing the bare minimum that the state requires. We are, it's hard to say we are complying with the full intent of the law, but we are complying with the full verbiage of the law, the words that are written. Part of it is you have to show, and this is even a separate law, a third one, we have to show that we are attempting to meet the state's push for more affordable housing. And how do we do that? And they give you ways you can show that you're doing that. One of them is to register, no, they don't say register, to control short-term rentals. So that's where we're debating right now. Some people on the planning board don't want us to even do registering of them. I don't think, there were a couple of people in the audience last time who would have been willing to regulate, to actually apply regulations to short-term rentals. Not very many. And then I'm kind of in between the two. My push is to register them, satisfy the state. And the only thing is, I'll be frank, it's just like guns. Once you register them, the next step is regulating them, because now you have access to that information. So eventually I think it will go there, but not right now. So.
Is the registering gonna be mandatory or optional?
Well, and that was the discussion. Could we write it as being optional registering, or would we have to? And I'm gonna leave that actually to our lawyer. If she thinks that she can justify, because the state has to approve whatever we write. And so if she can justify to the state that presenting an optional input registering satisfies our requirement to comply with the intent of the laws, then we'll do it optional. But my gut feeling is it doesn't. You gotta have something in the book that says this is an ordinance and you have to do this, you know, so.
So we probably end up with
I think
mandatory because it's.
Register. Well, I think we're gonna preempt, my hope is that we create an ordinance that the state's not gonna preempt. So. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
and we digress
yeah,
far afield.
now we're gonna vote on that warrant article, much better informed.
That's true.
Is there a motion to approve the CEO budget of $59,26?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Planning board.
Speak to the devil.
That's right.
I don't know, where's Daddy Group?
Yeah, we.
How much we're learning.
Yeah, we're not adding much to your budgeting process. Are you the note taker?
I could pick a number out my kid.
Oh, that's pretty cut and dry, yes?
Yeah.
How many, what's their number versus target? Planning board?
There's 5 of them.
What line is it?
They still, they have, my question for you is they still have a quorum problems.
Oh, same thing.
No, they don't label.
So they have a vacancy,
It's still a vacancy, but,
So do we,
and they have a vacancy and an alternate too, right?
yep.
Two or one?
Well, they don't have any alternates, they have a vacancy at this planning board members, isn't it supposed to be 7?
No, five.
5, okay,
I
that's
think we
5.
changed it to five.
Five with two alternates.
They're good then, but they have no alternate.
Yeah, if you guys know somebody that wants to join this team, let these guys know. Okay, any questions about the planning board, or is there a motion to approve, preliminarily approve its budget of $2,718?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, streetlights. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Moving right along.
What's up, little ones? All in favor? Streetlights. Mary's opportunity to jab me in the ribs. Maintenance, not so bad in 23, 24. Down. So Ubiquia was the spin-off of the company that did the streetlight. The service company
They
that
were
they put in
the
place,
company, yeah,
that didn't do much.
and they had the map that you can look and
Okay,
see.
but Hedgeman's always done the work.
Right, but Ubiquia got paid a lot of money to call Headstrom.
Right.
I can call Headstrom myself.
And they still don't come.
Oh, no, Headstrom got better after.
Oh, did they?
after
Oh,
we
good,
did that
okay.
little time.
Well, yeah,
We just, I haven't had any reports of an outage.
they,
That's 'cause you don't have
in
a-
fairness to them, they were not ready for the onslaught, especially from Thomaston and Rock. And we paid the price.
Yeah, I agree.
They seem to have caught up.
I think they overbooked themselves. That's, I know someone who works with them who said they just took on way too much.
Yeah, I got the same feedback.
But just so you know, we're no longer monitoring those lights.
We don't use their software, we don't have anything to do with Ubiquia anymore.
Right, yeah.
So if there's a light out, someone needs to,
If someone needs, no, don't call Headstrom.
but someone needs to
Right,
let you
somebody
know.
has- to
Right,
let you
someone
know,
has to let me
yeah.
know.
Yeah, if someone sees a light out, or more importantly, a light on during the daytime.
Yes. Yes, usually if the light's out, you can hear it very quickly.
Yeah, but not so much with the light on all day long.
No,
Okay, and that loan is still active, right? It's going to show up in debt service.
yes.
Is there a motion to approve the streetlight budget of $3,500 on a preliminary basis?
So moved.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Townland. So we can go on. Does this fall under you, John? You look after all the.
Yeah, I've done some stuff down there. I fixed the broken ladder.
Got more stuff down there.
I'm trying to get someone to replace the two bad, cement, whatever you call them, pieces in the ramp that are sitting on the deck.
So that's what's the $1,500 in wages for anticipating?
I'm sorry, I'm not there yet. I actually did I work on this budget, Terry?
We kind of all worked on it together. At the meeting.
Yeah,
Sorry. Oh. Well, we've already spent, that would be this year. I don't know. I don't think we need that much.
I thought you put it in there for like, Like you had Tyler do some work down there last year
Yeah,
and some things that you thought were coming up.
that's true. Yeah, and some of the boards need, well, actually, one of the floats is pretty bad shape. And we went from 1 to 2 floats at one point in time. I don't know whether we should peel it back to 1 again, or I'm not sure the rationale why we went to 2. I wasn't here when that happened, but,
We got a grant for it.
yeah. But at a minimum, I think some of the top boards need to replace, and cleaning up down there is always an issue, and the other thing is, this comes out of reserve, so if we don't spend it, we don't take it out of the reserve, so. But I think you could cut that back to 1,000, easy. And then the float is just putting it in and out. We do need to do some repairs. And I don't know whether we'll get to that or just put 1 in, I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you, I haven't given this a lot of thought. Portable toilet, I guess is what it is, trash removal. Sorry, I don't have more to add.
That's never a big deal. So you're suggesting, so I'm gonna turn this back to the select board. Are you gonna adjust your recommendation or reduce it? Or do we want to just leave it as it is?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, it's not a 6, 1, half dozen the
It doesn't
other.
have any impact on that.
Right, it doesn't.
No.
We don't spend it, we don't use it, so.
Okay. All
But
right, so is there a motion to approve the town landing budget of $5,763? Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? And the town landing reserve.
yeah, man, and if I can find somebody who doesn't have insurance and can repair a float, maybe I can spend those wages and get the float fixed cheap, but.
Well, the reserve is just the monies from that side,
Right,
we
yeah.
don't go down there.
Oh, it's just closing automatically, doesn't it? And you're anticipating that it's gonna only be $237?
That was before that number was changed, but it didn't stay changed, so it should be 2,000.
What number are we talking about? Going back,
Page 53.
Oh, okay.
But 2,000 instead of 237.
So,
it wasn't on there. So it's 2,000.
and I make an ask for you guys to consider. We spent $36,000 over my strenuous objections to buy that piece of land there. We then spent money with Garsky and Doyle, or whoever they are, to do 2 engineering studies or plans for what to do with the Gray Smith land. And 0 has happened. Now, there are some pretty good reasons why 0 has happened. But can you publicize the fact that it's there? Improvements would be funded by the town landing reserve, and what we need are some champions and interested people. All the people that jumped up and down and went, yeah, let's do the $36,000. Where are they now? When it's time to do the work,
Right.
we spent the money.
Do we still, I think that's part of it. I've had a couple of people ask about it. And we found those plans?
Yeah.
We have found the plans,
Yeah.
okay.
And we took all that granite from the bridge and put it over there and didn't let anybody else have it. You don't want to use it for that.
It's all out there. Might go fast, so down by Huey Dogs.
So this is a classic example of shelfware.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I think there was some opposition to that plan, so.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
there was.
And I think it needs to be dusted off and revisited.
I don't disagree. It's
Yeah.
5 years.
Well, not of that, I think there was, at the time, there was, not only is it stale, but I think there was definitely some opposition to what was envisioned, if I recall. I wasn't on the board at the time, but,
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but
there's a lot of constituencies
Right.
in that area, in that, invested in that area. Constituents, I guess, or whatever.
Where
A
else,
lot of people have differing opinions about what.
where else would we buy hot dogs and tacos?
Yeah.
Well, in a declaration against interest. Somebody, maybe Walter, maybe Jeff, anyway, asked if the Conservation Commission
That
would
was
look
Walter.
into it.
That was Walter.
And we said we would, and at the time, nobody could find the plans, but now apparently they've been found. So,
Yeah, that was the last I recall, was somebody on the conservation committee wanted the plans.
me,
Yeah.
Well, that's
no,
Walter asked.
no, I had been asked by Walter,
Okay,
you know, for the Conservation Commission, like, would some of us look into it, and we said, well, we'd be happy to, but we don't know where go is without the plans.
Right.
And at the time, no one, but now they've found. So pass them on.
You had him a long time, right?
Yeah, you know, as, that plan doesn't bother us to anything. It's the creative juices of people
Yeah.
that really want to make something out of it and not.
Well, and Jan was kind of the driving force behind this.
He's otherwise
He left,
now.
huh?
He's otherwise occupied now. He has another full-time job.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be very interested in it, but I just feel like I got a lot on my plate as it is, yeah. But I think that it's definitely. I think it has a lot of potential to be a real keystone of the center of town down there, you know.
Great. Okay, without objection, I'm gonna adjourn the budget committee.
What you're doing with this four hundred and thirty-seven?
We didn't put it on the town landing or something.
It's not ours to rule on.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I think so, really,
So we're not making any recommendation.
on the reserve.
Got it.
It just goes in there wherever it is.
That's for that side.
Excise.
Is that why they were nervous?
You pay this,
Yeah.
you fund that reserve.
Or.
How many letters have I don't-
Which we have Pleasant Beach has had a lot of demand
Yeah. you can
on
have-
their public
The
access.
Lobsters Association.
Oh, right,
Right.
Right, we appreciate it. The work.
Thank you, Tanya. I'll see you tomorrow.
thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Select board have anything else? One last chance before, without objection, we are adjourned.
You know, public living reserve is both that side, that it's now, all used. Water.
Are those the only two?
There. Yeah.
Is it the town land?
I mean, yeah, police, I'm making, they're gonna be on my mind, that, but.
But even if everybody has the start. Done.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody likes it.
I think there's already.
There's a lot of them.
Thank you.
I'll take some.
Well, to be changed, but it would take another time.
Right.
But there's a lot of them more effects factor to that.
I know that.
Your favorite house is right there.
That's not to mention the memorial park. For